now welcome Bob's son, Robert, to offer some words of remembrance about his father.
I guess I'd like to just begin by thanking all of you for being here today, and those who are watching celebrate my father's life at home because of the pandemic. I think my father would be incredibly humbled to know that you all joined us in light of all that's going on in the world today. I think I thought about this moment all my life. Rather than tell you his life story, which most of you are familiar with, I hope to share with you some reflections on my father's life that honor his memory and what was most important to him. If you didn't already know it, my father was born 87 years ago today. Today is his birthday. He was the second son to my grandparents, William and Mary Galvin, an older brother to his sisters, Jane and Moira. My father was an exceptionally proud and supportive 1951 BC High graduate for his entire life. He'd be flattered and again humbled to know that Father Nolan for BC High and Father Mark Durain, a BC High graduate, and also Father Hennessy, are present here with us today and on behalf of the BC High community. I'll be forever grateful to the Jesuit community at BC High, which has been praying for my father for weeks. And they sadly and proudly announced his life and death to its thousands of graduates, students, staff members this past Monday. Throughout his life, my father told me that nearly every good thing happened because of BC High. And everything was connected to BC High. Today, after hours of reflection, I think I fully comprehend why. BC High taught him what BC High calls a faith that does justice, about living compassionately in the service of others, living a healthy and well-balanced life, and how to be a man for others. I'm sure that began with the ideals that my grandparents taught him, and he enjoyed in his household growing up. However, his love for BC High came from the fullness of the education and these values that he accepted and embraced from BC High. My dad was also a proud graduate of Boston College and Boston College Law School, earning the right to call himself a triple eagle. He was very proud of that. Anyone that knows my father knows that for the last 70 years, my father was a devoted BC football fan, a season ticket holder for probably as soon as they sold them. Hail Mary pass back in 1984 and a kick at Notre Dame in 1993 kept him coming back for more year after year. But the most important thing about Boston College was not something that revealed itself to him for several more years. His time at BC was also split by 3 years of service as a lieutenant in the United States Navy. Interestingly, the thing that stuck out most in my mind was something that he said to me about his service in the Navy. He was most proud of the fact that when there was no priest available or chaplain available aboard a ship, he used to lead his fellow sailors in prayer. As a kid, I couldn't understand why that was important. As an adult, I can tell you, it explains to me so much more of who he was and what was important to him. When my father met my mother, I imagine he instantly knew he had a soulmate. They shared a Catholic and Irish heritage. Galvin, Condon, Flanagan, and Burke. Unbelievable. They shared an affection for Boston College, where my mother was also a graduate of the School of Nursing. They spent every free moment with one another, engaged after only a matter of weeks. I love the story told by my mother that she tied a ribbon to a tree outside the Flanagan home to let my father know that my grandfather Frank and her 4 older brothers approved of their marriage engagement and it was safe to come back in. Throughout their lives, they found happiness in almost everything they did together, and then with us kids. This 54-plus love affair had been a great source of inspiration to my brothers, my sister, and to their many friends in our family. Every day of his life, my father lived the words of his wedding vows. From this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, sickness and in health, to love and honor you as long as we both shall live. Without a doubt, my father, I think, took special pride in the fact that all of us kids were well educated, graduated from college, developed varied interests, all find love in our lives, and that my parents' love in our marriages blessed him and my mother with wonderful 9 grandchildren, Joseph and Benjamin, Morgan, Max and Harrison, Colin and Molly, and Matthew and Mary. All you needed to know how proud he was of his children and grandchildren was to step into his office or speak with him for more than a couple of minutes. My father loved his sisters, Jane and Moira. While he was largely reserved with his emotions, which is a Galvin trait, I know their extraordinary sibling bond was a great source of comfort to him in good times and in sad times and throughout the last 8 weeks of his life. My Uncle Paul Massey, his BC High graduate classmate from 1951, was his lifelong friend. When Jane and Paul moved back from Alaska, everything seemed right again in the world for my father. My father and Paul found a whole bunch of new mischief to get into. My father treasured every moment of it. My father loved his brothers-in-law, the Flanagan uncles, my Aunt Barbara and Al Johnson. From the moment he met all of you, my uncles and aunt, and you entrusted my mother to him, he fulfilled in every way his promise to you to make my mother happy for her whole life. To my cousins and their spouses, my father was invested in your lives as well. Just as with us kids, he repeated your life stories over and over again, and how proud he was of your successes and your happy moments. He also did what he did best when it was necessary, and that was to lend a non-judgmental ear whenever you needed it. If you didn't know this already, each and every one of you was his favorite niece and nephew, and you were the greatest to him. In reflecting upon my father's life, there are things that I also want to highlight that really sum up who he was and why I loved him so much. My father loved music. My earliest memories of my father included the black Estes piano that sat in the basement of our home on Canoe Tree Street. My father drew each and every one of us in with his chords. I can still remember flying down the stairs of our home in Marshfield to the basement, boy of 5, to listen to him play. I don't think I even know today the chords that he was playing or the name of the song that he was playing. But I can tell you we all came running anytime he sat down and started those familiar chords, started swaying and humming, not singing, never sung, his favorite tunes. Later in life, I know he was upset with the difficulty he had with his hands when it made it tough for him to play the piano. He then delighted in others playing the piano, whether it was Barbara, Moira, Jane, little Mary, and Maddie. My father loved animals. He would never admit this, but growing up in Newton on a small plot in Fayette Street in Newton Corner on the Watertown line, I don't even recall my father speaking about family pets, so I came to believe that there was only one, maybe a cat. In any event, whether it was Marshfield or Duxbury, we were always surrounded by animals, and loads of them. Dogs, so many cats that I can't remember. Guinea pigs, ducks, rabbits, goats, horses, turtles, indoor and outdoor goldfish, we had them all. I don't know if this is true, but half of them I suspect my mother just brought home, because if she asked my father, he probably would have said no. But what I can tell you is whatever my mother brought home, he loved. No more than the cat my sister brought home from Notre Dame Academy that he called Kitty, we called Kitty, and his favorite dog, Freckles. Whether they knew it or not, I think there were few animals that were ever loved and missed more than when they passed. My father loved a good party. The 4th of July in those days in Duxbury was huge. The more people that came to our party, the more he seemed to enjoy the day. It seemed like hundreds used to come. My father used that day to catch up with his friends, to find out what was going on in your lives, to tell you all how happy he was that you were in his life, and it created memories that'll last a lifetime. Years later, he used to love to tell the story of how Uncle Al Johnson took our 2 small pygmy goats that we had in our house in Duxbury, put some black glasses on that someone who might be blind would wear, went up to the parade with hundreds of people around, and told everybody that would listen that these were his seeing eye goats. As great as those parties were, our friends and family had so many other parties that he also enjoyed. July 3rd at the Flanagans in Hummerock to watch the fireworks allowed us to spend so many meaningful years with 3 generations of the Flanagan family in a place that meant so much to the Flanagans. It even morphed in later years to the Galvin side of the family attending that party too. Christmas and Thanksgiving with the Masseys and Aunt Moira in her home in Cambridge. The last Cider family party held each fall. The family parties at the McCarthys, the Nurgers, the Rands, the Valentis, the Troys, and so many other homes offered their own special blend of fun and flair. He loved them all. I know due to the pandemic we can't have a party now, but I'll tell you, there will be more parties and happiness in our life, and our faith tells us that. And Dad, you'll be there with us. In addition to his incredible and indelible love for my mother, my father loved and adored his friends. Many of you present here today are here because you are his friend. My dad would want each and every one of you to know how much joy your friendship brought him. He'd want me to tell you all, and each and every one of you, why he loved you so much. There simply isn't enough time to do so. What I will say to you is, though, whether you were here in person, you're here in spirit, is that he didn't want any of you to be sad for him. He lived a wonderful life. Your presence in that life made his life fulfilling beyond words. Your unconditional friendship was the greatest gift that anyone could ever give and receive, and I'll never be able to repay you. I know my brothers, my mother, my sister all join me in thanking you for being his friend. And this is why I love my father so much and I admired him. My father was what you would call soft-hearted. Hopefully I said that, soft-hearted, and had a pure soul. This made him a wonderful son, brother, lawyer, husband, father, and friend. A soft-hearted person doesn't care about a person's past, is always quick to listen or lend a hand or give advice, constantly strives to please everyone and support everybody, even forgetting to take care of himself or oneself when making sure that others' needs still need to be attended. A soft-hearted person believes that saving everybody and doing the right thing is not an option, it's the only option. A soft-hearted person trusts with all their heart and sees the beauty and good in all things and all people. At BC High, we call this being a man for others. I believe what drew us all to him in his soft heart and a pure soul, I believe this is what drew us all to him was a soft heart and pure soul. And this was not a weakness, but rather a strength, a shining example for us all. To my sons, my nieces and nephews, and all of us here, your grandfather's final wish is for you never to be afraid, to keep a soft heart and a pure soul. He would tell you at times it will be challenged to maintain that soft heart, and the world can be a cruel and unforgiving place at times. In the end, if you maintain that soft heart and pure soul, you will be rich in spirit, a light to the world, and rewarded like your grandfather with an abundance of love and friends. These are riches that can never be lost. I believe that the most wonderful place to be in the world is in someone's thoughts, in someone's prayers, and in someone's heart. Dad, you'll be in my thoughts and prayers forever.
Thank you, Bob, for your words of remembrance for your father. Please stay.